Hello and welcome to the Core Outdoors Speaker Series. I'm your host, Jamie Moy, an adventure journalist in the West Kootenay region. Core is Kootenay Outdoor Recreation Enterprise. It is the craft gear from here. And once a month, Core produces this webinar to share valuable information in the outdoor rec tech space and to continue to strengthen its community of gear designers, makers, and manufacturers. For today's session, I'm so stoked to welcome Ben Kepes, co-founder of Cactus Outdoor, one of New Zealand's most respected outdoor and workwear brands. Cactus was built on a simple premise: products should last decades, not seasons. Ben's topic today is deliver or don't bother. Why meeting your product promise is the new non-negotiable in the outdoor industry. Saucy. Looking forward to hearing this. Feel free to ask questions as we go. You can type them into the chat and then I'll monitor the chat and pose those questions as they arise. Or you can click that little button to raise your hand and you can ask it yourself. All right, let's get started. Welcome, Ben. It's so great to have you.
Thanks, Jamie. It's nice to be here.
How about we have you share your screen?
Sure, let me do that.
Great.
Okay, that should be through now.
Yeah, that looks good.
Awesome. So I'll kick off. Thanks everyone for joining. It's crazy. I was saying to Jamie before that little pockets of people doing amazing artisanal stuff on the other side of the world really buoys me up. I read on LinkedIn every day about little brands that are closing down because things are so tough, especially in the US. And it's so cool that folks are still doing what they do with heart. And I guess that's the sort of essence of what I'm going to talk about today, that small brands like ours, like what we do and like what a lot of you folks do, are really important and do something that the bigger brands can't do. And we have a level of authenticity that others can't manufacture, no matter what they do. So anyway, thanks for joining. I recognize that Canada is to the US what New Zealand is to Australia. So I feel your pain, and note that every time I see a Canadian tourist, there's big Canadian flags over everything. So just in case people get confused, so we have the same sort of dynamic. So deliver or don't bother. I guess I want to give a little bit of background about us because you will probably never have heard of us. Which I'm not at all offended about. That's my problem, not your problem. But we have been going since 1992, and our founder story, our origin story, is very much similar to most of the outdoor brands, which is that the three of us that started Cactus were outdoor heads, cyclists, hikers, climbers. And frankly, we were kind of unemployable in the real world, and we wanted to make some good stuff for ourselves and our friends. I guess the thing that differentiates us from the other brands that were started at a similar time, so Icebreaker, which is another New Zealand brand, which obviously is a huge merino brand and sold for $500 million a few years ago, was started around the same time, and we had a lot to do with them. I guess the thing that we have is that 33 years later, we're still a little company owned by the same people. And, traditional business press would say that that's a failure. I don't see it that way. I think that the fact that we can be doing what we do, holding the line 33 years later is an amazing, beautiful thing. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And so our the three of us that founded it, Gwilym, Rob, and myself. The way it came about, Gwilym was a climber. He is the youngest, or back in the day, was the youngest ever person to do a grand traverse of Mount Cook when he was 14 years old or something. And his mother was a textile artist, and so she taught him to sew when he was a young lad. And he started making book bags in his room, in his bedroom. Carl, I think we've got a bit of an echo going on. You might have to mute. So Gwilym started making. Excellent, that's better. Sorry, Gwilym started making chalk bags in his bedroom all those years ago, and the reason the name came about is because another one of his side businesses was propagating cacti on his bedroom window, and so when this business started, the name Cactus came up. But 33 years later, we still have a manufacturing facility in Christchurch, where we're based. We have about 30 odd people in our factory, and that factory is now kind of an R&D repair and customization facility, because we do source some products from overseas as well. And that's been a journey, quite a long journey. I was always vehemently pro New Zealand made, and I sort of said that I would die on my own petard if we had to move offshore, and I haven't died, but we have moved offshore, because the reality is both in terms of quantity, but also price point. The reality is that sometimes offshore is the only solution. So over the past few years, we have started to morph into a sort of a hybrid manufacturing approach, but we're really, really honest about that. I always remember a very, probably the best known New Zealand outdoor brand moved all its production offshore about 10, 15 years ago. And when they did, they changed their branding to show New Zealand flags, and every product had written all over it, made of New Zealand. And I just didn't understand that. I mean, it's for sure it's designed in New Zealand, for sure it was born in the mountains, all of that stuff. But made of New Zealand, I don't understand what that actually means. So we're very honest. When we made the move to shifting some stuff offshore, we were very, very open with our customers about the whys, the whats. We partner with our factories, we visit our factories are all certified up the wazoo, all those sorts of things. And most importantly, for a product-led company, our products that are made offshore are our products. They use our fabrics, they use our designs, they use our specifications right down to thread, right down to the things that we do that other people don't do to make sure that they do last a very long time. And that's really what we're about. If you come into one of our stores here in New Zealand and listen to customers talking, you'll hear people talk about stuff that lasts an incredibly long time. It's always really interesting for me to be in conversations with people, or overhear conversations with people, where we'll have a cactus customer talk to someone who isn't a cactus customer, and they will do the work for it. They'll talk about the stuff is just amazing, it lasts forever. We have builders and landscapers who will get 20 years out of a pair of trousers. We do what is generally regarded as the toughest down jacket in the world, made out of our Camvex proprietary fabric. And every year, folks that are going to and from Antarctica, they all fly from Christchurch. That's where the Antarctic base is. And they'll come into the store and they'll buy one of these jackets. They get issued uniforms from other companies, but they will buy one of our jackets because it's kind of the only thing that will keep them warm and protected and will last down in Antarctica. We hired a new store manager a few years ago, and we hired him because we were at a rural show up in the North Island, and this guy turned up yarning about his life and showing us his pants. And his pants were a 20-year-old pair of cactus pants that his father had worn for years and years and years, and then handed down to his son. That sounds really quaint and a nice story, but that's really what we're about. We're about stuff that really, really lasts. And part of that is that we don't do trends, we don't do seasons, we don't do new designs for the sake of new designs. Our super trousers, which are our heavy duty work pants, have been the same for going on 20 years. At the end of the day, we change things if we need to. And so, Rob, who's one of the co-founders who runs our repair lab, often will come running upstairs to talk to our design team and say, oh, I've had this repair, and it seems to me that if we moved this seam to here, or we did this little thing here, it would make it last that little bit longer. And so we do those tweaks. But in terms of, tweaking designs just for the sake of it. We don't do that, because we are about serious gear for serious use. We're about stuff that is designed to help people get their job done. We're not about superfluity. We're not about zips and pockets and extra features just for the design of it. We're not about ultra lightweight fabrics. We don't, at this point, we don't do sailcloth packs, for example, because I mean, I've got ultra lightweight gear and it's awesome, but that's not who we are or what we are. We are serious tools for serious use, and so therefore everything we do has to last a very long time. Generally, it's simpler and heavier than equivalents, but that's what folks want, because we're delivering that product. And that's so that's who we are. Why are we different? What is our raison d'etre? Why, after 33 years, are we still doing this thing? I don't. They have an incredible sense of ownership of, of our product and our brand all around the place. It's kind of seen as a really, it's almost like people feel a sense of ownership and membership to our brand. And in our products, that's very much what we do. We're making products. It used to be we're making products for ourselves. Then all of a sudden we're making products for ourselves and our friends. Now we're making products for ourselves and people who are like us. And it's always a jarring thing. And lots of people in this call will remember the first time they were walking down the street and they saw one of their products being worn by someone they didn't actually know. Um, I was, a funny story. A few years ago, my wife's an artist, and we were on a study tour for her, visiting galleries, and we were in the queue to get into the Louvre in Paris. And the guy in front of me in the queue was wearing a pair of our pants and one of our backpacks, and it's jarring. I mean, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing, and it definitely makes up for not making a heap of money out of the business. At the end of the day, people don't go into the outdoor industry to be rich. They go into the outdoor industry to have autonomy and to make good products. And it's quite moving when you see that happening. And so in terms of that longevity thing, we design repairability into our products. As I said, Gwilym, who was the founder, one of the founders, and the first designer, wasn't a classically trained designer. He was completely self-taught, and so the way he designed products and embedded into them was the ability to take them apart, to repair them, to change things out. And so, generally speaking, our stuff is much easier to repair than other products. I was climbing in Nepal a few years ago, and I was up in Namche Bazaar on my way to EBC, and I had a problem with my pack, and so went to some random guy with a treadle sewing machine out in the open in the middle of Namche Bazaar, and could fix my pack. And you don't get that in the modern world with welded seams and high-tech fabrics and zips and those sorts of things. And so, like for like, our products tend to be quite simple, both in terms of materials and construction, because it means they are more repairable. We don't hype. We are really honest about our products, and we do overbuild. I had a conversation with someone a few years ago where they were saying, "Oh, because we talk about our product being gear that wears in, not out," and they were saying, "Oh, your pants are kind of stiff. I got some for my husband, and I don't like them; they're stiff." And so many people piled into that person saying, you know, the stuff takes time to wear in. It's like your favorite pair of shoes. No, they're not comfortable when you buy them, but they're going to be comfortable once you've broken them in. And it's quite polarized in the outdoor industry. What I see when I go to regular outdoor stores is stuff looks and feels really nice, like in a fashion store at first wearing, but you know that that 5 minutes later, it's going to be, after a few adventures, it's going to start wearing out. We're the opposite of that. And that whole repairability is welded into our DNA. So we have a repair lab in our factory. We also have sewing machines in all of our retail stores because we fix the stuff we make. Our store retail staff can all do basic repairs and hem pants and those sorts of things. And that's kind of our ethos. And for us, repair really is the product. We think about, if your ethos is that you're making tools for people to help them get their jobs done, then anything that takes time out of them having the availability of that tool is an impediment to getting their job done. And so, again, repairability is designed into our product. All things being equal, it's quicker and easier for our product than for other products. Spare parts are somewhat generic, so we don't have custom molded buckles, for example, that you can't get replacements of from anywhere except from us. We use fairly standard molding, so that if you're in Numchi Bazaar, you can probably find a barrel lock or a side release or a tri-glide to repair your products.
Hey, Ben,
And yeah,
I'm curious, how much kind of marketing, or let's call it customer education, do you guys find that you need to do in terms of, especially when you look at, let's say, fashion and outdoor brands and how things are trending in terms of like, oh, new product drop, and this whole more of a fast
yeah,
fashion we live in terms of the point that, the fact that, hey, our stuff does take a bit to wear in, et cetera, et cetera. Or is it just more word of mouth?
yeah, it's a great question, Jamie. So it is word of mouth, but I mean, I guess the outdoor industry, I mean, if you think about the origin stories of Patagonia and other brands like it, it was dirtbag, anti-fashion climbers living out the back of vans, trimming their toenails, and just wearing the same stuff day in, day out. And then all of a sudden, any brand, the bigger brands that grew became fashion. My observation is that people really aspire to those early days, even if they're not dirtbag climbers living out of the back of the van. They want to feel connection and an authenticity with their products, and they want to earn the right to identify as part of a brand. And I think that plays into what we do. I mean, we don't do what we do because we're trying to play into a trend. But I think through good luck rather than good management, we've kind of lucked into this situation where what we do in our approach that people really, really identify with. And so our brand isn't for everyone. There's a lot of folks that will go to a regular outdoor store that want the softest, lightest, nicest product, and that's fine. I mean, and it's not that we're being elitist like that. That's all good. People shouldn't buy our stuff if they want to wear it once and go down to their favorite cafe with it and have it in the closet or whatever. Not that you can't do that stuff, with our products, but our products are our tools, and so we are unashamedly delivering, hardcore solutions, tools that help people get their job done. So that's kind of where we're at. And I think this sort of plays out in our approach towards production. It really helps that we don't do sort of seasonal fashion drops and those sorts of things. We do, compared to other companies who do very small runs. We're not making 100,000, of anything. We're still doing production lots because, especially when you're doing stuff in Southeast Asia, you need to be talking in the thousands of units of things. But we do small runs. We also have this approach, and I think this is something quite special, having our hybrid manufacturing approach where we've got our own factory as well as factories we use elsewhere. We did something the other day that it was kind of a bit of a joke, but we did it anyway, which is, we're very well known for super trousers, so we decided to make some pajamas, the super snoozers, and we did limited run, limited time. Once they're sold out, they're sold out, and in 2 hours the whole lot went. And that's kind of our jam. We're not about maximizing the possible throughput or output or revenue. We would much rather de-risk ourselves, do something at a limited time, and move on. We don't sort of artificially create urgency. We're very upfront about these things. So with those pajamas, for example, it was very clear this is a limited time product. We're going to do it until they sell out. Very simple. And I think that the fact is that people love that idea of scarcity. I don't think we do that in order to try and appear elite. It works really well for our business model, frankly, but it does play into what we are as a brand. And we'd rather say not yet rather than compromise. We've been here for 33 years. We are the epitome of slow growth, which isn't sexy, isn't particularly lucrative, but it gives you the autonomy to do the right stuff. And so we're now in a position where I'm the majority shareholder of the business. We have no debt. We have total autonomy over what we do, which in these trying times, that freedom to operate is really, really positive. And so in terms of our products, I said it before that we're making tools for ourselves and our friends. And that's how our product design process is really inspired as well. We don't do mood boards. We don't do pictures of, watercolors of models wearing our stuff. We talk to the folks that are using our products out in the wild and see what goes wrong, see what problems they have, see what issues they have in their job or what issues they have with our product, and we make things accordingly. And everything really is a lesson. Every repair that we have, it's so valuable. Rob, having our co-founder who runs our repair lab, he's been making our products for 30 odd years, and so having him repair products, interact with the design team, and really see what goes wrong. We also do repairs for other brands as well, so he can really see what goes wrong for other brands, and really that informs. We have a real circular sort of approach to this that really informs how products are designed over time. And so this is this whole circularity idea, and we've been doing it for 30 years. It seems now that it's become cool, and a lot of fashion brands are talking about doing this, making shoes from recycled soda bottles or whatever. But this is kind of inherent in our DNA. Our thing is repair. Like the three of us that started the business, all of us hate shopping. All of us hate the idea of throwing something away, not necessarily because of the environmental aspect, although that's important, but more because it's just stupid. We don't want to take time to buy things. We want to have more time to do the things that we do. And so repairing things helps us on that journey. We do a lot of sort of refurbishment as well, where we might take old rain jackets, for example, and do a limited series run of caps with them, for example. Or we might take some, similar to what, Patagonia obviously does worn wear, and I've got immense respect for Patagonia and what they do. We do that at a smaller scale, and so refurbishing products or repurposing products. And then finally, recycling. Frankly, my view is that recycling is a very, very distant third priority for reducing environmental impact, environmental and social impact, to be fair. And so the fact of the matter is that it's far better to make a pair of pants that lasts 20 years than to make a pair of pants that lasts a year that can be recycled, because in terms of the impact on society and the environment, the longer lasting a product is, the better it is for everyone. And the pricing thing, so it's really interesting. A few years ago, we were talking about price of our sort of premium product, which is this Canvex down jacket. And it was, I mean, it takes 10 hours by our craftspeople in the factory to make. Like it's a very, very intense product. And we weren't making much or any margin on it. And so we had to make a decision. And so I embraced the idea of putting the price up. But in doing so, I actually did a blog post. We did a bunch of advertising to be very, very honest about why a product costs as much as it does, how much margin isn't being made, how many hours it takes to make, why it takes so long, what quality you get when you take so long to do things like that. And it's amazing. People really responded well to that. A similar thing we did a few years ago where we did a t-shirt that actually had a graphic on it that showed how much of the price of that t-shirt was materials, how much was labor, the small amount that was margin. People really want to feel true value. It's my view is that for sure lots of people go and buy Hermes scarves or Louis Vuitton bags where the cost and the value are two, are diametrically opposed, and there's a massive delta between them. My view is that more and more people want to understand the direct connection between what something costs to make and the value it delivers and how much it costs in the store. And again, we're really honest about that, and that's the freedom to operate that comes from essentially owning the majority of this business. I can tune what we do, not to maximize profit, not to maximize unit sales, but to maximize authenticity and longevity of products, but also longevity of a brand. And I think that's the other thing that's really important. So we're 33 years old. My two sons actually work in the business. One runs the supply side, the other runs the demand side. We have the other two founders. One of their kids works in the business, and I want the autonomy for that to continue. And so, in 50 years' time, if my grandchildren are working in the business, which sounds nepotistic, it's not about that. It's about giving options and not having to make the decisions to maximize profit. And to me, that's a really important thing. And so again, I've talked about this before, the materials that we use. We use, so the canvas that we use in our packs and in some of our clothing products, for example, is the same stuff that we used 30 years ago. Canvas has been used in sewn products for hundreds and hundreds of years, and there's a reason for that. Yep, it's heavy, for sure, heavier than ultra lightweight sailcloth fabrics, but it's reliable, it's easily made, its environmental impact is known, it's easy to repair, it's easy to get replacement parts, and so that really is our jam. We don't change our choices unless there's a very good reason to, and we don't chase trends. I mean, we use, for example, we do a bunch of alpine packs, and through Willem's climbing experience, when he designed those packs 20, 30 years ago, he knew that when you're up in the mountains and you're wearing gloves, it's very hard to undo a buckle to get your ice tools off. And so we use alpine clips, which at the time were a really high-tech development. We still use alpine clips, which are not as high-tech as the fancy schmancy things that you can get now. But again, if you're in Namche Bazaar and you need a replacement, chances are you can probably find an alpine clip replacement. You can't find a replacement for a proprietary buckle that no one has seen before, that only one brand has. So simple products, tough products, done well, engineered for longevity, built with care, with passion, and with love, um, and sold to customers who regard those products with the same level of love. It's there's the risk of over dramatizing these things, and I don't want to do that, but we really feel that we're making, we're not selling products, we're selling experiences, and we're selling experiences that are intergenerational. And the products that we sell are just the interface or just the enabler for those experiences. We live down here in New Zealand, as you're well aware. We have a pretty wild climate. New Zealand itself has from subtropical to subantarctic. We have the highest mountains, and there's a hell of a lot of surfing that goes on near the beaches. Our products, as I said, they're used significantly in Antarctica. They've climbed the highest mountains. They've been to the extremes, and so our products are built for those tough climates, but not to go climb a mountain and get thrown out. Our products tend to be more multi-purpose, and so we do an alpine rain jacket, for example, which is 20,000 millimeters waterproof, highly breathable, but super rugged. So it's a totally appropriate jacket to go and climb, an 8,000er with, but it's also perfectly fine when the rain is pouring down and you're sitting in Christchurch or New York or somewhere. And so our products, we believe that someone should probably only have one rain jacket in their closet, and that no one needs a selection of 15 for different purposes. So again, our products tend to be usable for multiple different sort of situations. And again, simplicity is all that we're about. It really scares me to have a massive inventory, because so many organizations get into real financial distress when their inventory is massive. Clearly, when you move offshore, as we have to some extent, your inventory levels go up, and so we do have 2 or 3 times the inventory that we did when we were just doing short run here in New Zealand. But not being seasonal, doing control runs, not forcing ourselves to discount to quick stock, is really important for us. We do a couple of times a year we do have a sale, and we have a thing called stockroom, which we use to sell off blemished or seconds, or X samples and those sorts of things. And those are less about selling products cheap and more about, we've got a bunch of stuff, old samples or seconds. It just seems terrible to have those sit somewhere or go to landfill or not be used. It makes so much more sense to let people have them and get some use out of them. So that's our kind of inventory approach. So really, that's who we are and what we are. I guess the key takeaway is that for a good 20 years of our history, this approach towards building products, this approach towards building a business, this approach towards being was very unfashionable, and was not seen as the right way to grow and to prosper. I think times are changing. I think a more dynamic environment, both environmentally, but also economic environment, changing geopolitics, mean that people do want to connect and be part of something greater. We see all the big brands telling that story, and no disrespect to the big brands, they're all very good at doing what they do. But I think for most of the people watching this who are probably involved with smaller brands, I think the things that we can do are the things that those larger brands can't do, in terms of harsh authenticity, holding the line, not making decisions to maximize profit and throughput. And I just like, my closing remark is just respect to all of those that keep on doing the stuff that isn't sexy, that isn't massively profitable, but is fundamentally the right thing to do. So I'll quit there. I'll stop sharing and happy to take any questions or have a yarn.
What percentage of your production is domestic versus offshore?
Yeah, so it's about 60 to 70% is domestic. I mean, basically we have, traditional kind of product pyramid. And so our sort of quintessential product for the Canvex down jacket, for example, will never sell in the sort of quantities that would allow it to go offshore. But it shouldn't anyway, like it is the ultimate product. And so we're doing more accessible products, and those are more viable to be made offshore. But so it's about 70% domestic, and I think we'll get to sort of a point where it's sort of 50% domestic. But we'll probably hold there, I suspect.
Two questions. First, how best did you guys capitalize on that? I know you touched on it a little bit with the whole Made in New Zealand thing, but how best to capitalize that? And then on the flip side of things, we have a lot of Canadian makers who right now are going through a whole rah Canada, made in Canada thing, but we're lying beside an absolute juggernaut. And so, any ideas as far as like how best to kind of capitalize on that domesticity?
Yeah, so I would actually urge caution. My observation in New Zealand, I can't comment about Canada, but my observation in New Zealand is that everyone says they love New Zealand made, but no one actually cares, which is really sad. I mean, the number of times that I'll have someone say, oh, New Zealand made, like we'll go to a farming show, for example, and with this farmer be really aggressive around, oh, yeah, I always wear this product. It's New Zealand made, it's a New Zealand brand, New Zealand factories, and it's all made in China, but it's got a New Zealand logo on it. So I think that in defense of customers, sometimes it's hard because the cost differential. So we did until about 5 years ago, we were very strong on the New Zealand made piece. My observation is that people want you to deliver upon a promise, and that promise is about longevity, repairability, those sorts of things. Where it's actually made is secondary. So again, Canada might be different, and the sort of parochial aspect might be really relevant, but I would urge caution, because I think that leveraging the New Zealand made thing almost felt like we were guilting people into buying our stuff. Buy this product because otherwise no one will have jobs, and it's terrible, and you're screwing the environment and the world. And I would much rather a positive sell, which is buy this product because it's the best product out there. So we talk a lot about the repairability, about the durability. We absolutely encourage people to come visit the factory or visit the stores where they can see people making. But our message is one of crafting and engineering rather than specifically crafting and engineering in a certain place.
Where are you finding, or what are you finding are the best channels for connecting with your audience today? There's so many different touch points. I mean, what's most effective for the current generation?
Yeah, so I would say that making products that last an incredibly long time in a country with only 5 million residents is a terrible business model. But and that said, we do sell a lot of stuff into Australia and the US and Europe. In terms of connecting with customers, I mean, we do all the socials, we do all of that stuff because you have to. And tradition would tell you that the millennials will only engage online. Interestingly, we do sort of community building events in our stores. We did one a couple of weeks ago for the local university ski and mountaineering club, and we had 30 or 40 19, 20, 21-year-old students hanging out in the store, in the factory, hearing us talking about sustainability, talking about products, talking about repair and longevity. think that people that say that you can only engage with people online mistake the whole idea. People are looking for authenticity, and so it's less about where do we engage people and more with how and what do we engage them about. And so if you look at our socials, there's a lot of stuff about stuff being made, Rob doing repairs in the repair facility. And the interesting question, extension of your question, I guess, is as we grow, I mean, we're moving into wholesale in Australia. How do we think about keeping that theme of connection with community going? And for us, that's around physical activations in market. It's about using ambassadors, but not in a really gross Kardashian way that ambassadors influencers are traditionally used, but our folks doing stuff in different markets as kind of a beachhead into that market. The jury's out on how that's all going to shake down for all brands, not just for us, in this era of digital. But I think, again, increasingly in a hyper-connected world where, ironically, everyone's super connected, but no one feels a sense of connection, people are looking for ways to genuinely connect again. And it's brands like us and brands that are part of Core that are able to do that, I think.
Well, springboarding off of that, where are you guys headed? I mean, what's next?
What does success look like? Yeah, so I mean, as a shareholder and as a dad, there's nothing that makes me prouder than my two sons who are 23 and 25 doing an amazing job of essentially running the business. I mean, I'm the managing director, but they run the business day to day. So I would love for us to continue being a family business. But I don't want us to be shonky. So I want us to grow sustainably and to grow shonky, like fragile. So I want us to grow in a sustainable, measured way. I want us to be bigger. I want us to be a successful business and a successful brand. We need to move into other markets. I mean, as I say, about 20% of our revenue is from Australia, and that's growing. And we do have a bit of a cult following in the US and Europe. So I think so that was sort of the shareholder dad kind of conversation. As the person who's kind of the guardian of the business, I really feel that we have an obligation, because what we do is really special, is really important. We have an obligation to nurture that and to grow that such that in 20, 30, 40 years' time, people will be able to get Cactus product. People will be able to continue with this movement. And so, maybe it's me getting older and seeing my twilight years coming, but I feel a real obligation to perpetuate this thing and make it bigger and better.
And you spoke in the beginning, and it really struck me that the person with the 20-year-old pants coming up to you and like, see my pants, and they're so excited, and and then you spoke about your sons, and gosh, they're what, 3 and 5 when these pants were made technically, and now they're running the company. How do you see this translating into growing future makers within your organization? Is there a model of the education and support or trades and training that you focus on when doing this?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And so on the sons thing, I remember reading an email that my son wrote to a supplier or someone a couple of years ago, where he was introducing himself and said, "Oh, yeah, I've been around here quite a while. I used to crawl around the floor when I was 3 years old," which was quite sweet.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting question. So the dynamic in New Zealand is that almost no one manufactures here anymore. There's 1 or 2 brands that make here, and so the city that we're in, Christchurch, used to have tens of thousands of people in the apparel sector, huge factories, a bunch of stuff was made here. With that gone, the question is, how do you get a pipeline of talent coming through? We're lucky that we have a fashion school here. we're lucky that it's there. The problem is that everyone comes out of fashion school wanting to be a fashion designer. No one actually wants to sew or manufacture or do supply chain. But we do get quite a few people who want to be in the fashion industry and realize they need to understand the industry work. So we're really, really big on taking people in, at the grassroots as a machinist or whatever, and teaching them and promoting them through the business. I will say that quite a significant proportion of our machinists are immigrants from Southeast Asia. There may be an older demographic that has been a sewer, back at home and then come and got a job here. We're trying to change the idea. I think what people do in our factory is incredible. Like making essentially a tailored jacket is an amazing piece of art, and it tears me apart that the world does not appreciate and respect what they do. A software designer a software developer is held on this, high pedestal, and yet people that actually make a product that keeps people safe, that's kind of forgotten. And so part of my mission is part of our mission is to really showcase the beauty in crafting and how much respect we should show someone who crafts. That's a long road, and we've got a long way to go.
Story, but we launched a community-wide 12-location outdoor gear repair tour where we traveled all throughout the region, offering free repairs to outdoor gear. So what we discovered was there's this real community, not only our crew, which were a lot of came from Arc'teryx and they moved to Kootenays for lifestyle, but there's a real community of people that are DIY sewers. They're making bike bags on the side, bike packing bags on the side. There's a real movement for people wanting to get into the repair side of it and sew and repair. That's sort of a 25 to 35, demographic. So quite interesting, sort of this resurgence of the interest to be getting your hands, dirty with sewing. Compared to how you refer to the demographic of the group that's currently working with you. But I have one question, maybe Jamie, this is the last one, but with the tariff wars between Canada and US, and there's a real movement, both federal government and provincial, to make made in BC, made in Canada, bring in domestic manufacturing back to onshore. In the apparel world, do you have any sort of advice to people that are considering trying to do this? Because as in New Zealand, everything left our shores back from the 80s onwards, and trying to get it back is not easy. So do you think it's possible or doable? And if it is, what advice would you have?
It's possible and doable. I don't think people should do it because some temporary trade thing is happening. People should do it because it's the right thing. But I think that it's really important to think about the model that allows it to happen. Is anyone ever going to move, making 100,000 merino thermal tops from China to Canada? No, because that ship has sailed. Well, in the foreseeable future, no. Can you do really well making shorter run, high quality, differentiated product in market? 100% you can. So I fully support the idea of reshoring, but it's reshoring with a aligned rethinking of the business model to make it work. And I think you're right. Like, I agree in terms of your repair tour. People love that thing, and that's all part of that business model. People will pay more for a product when they can see it being made, talk to the person who's making it. They're not going to pay more for the generic merino top that's exactly the same as something that comes from the East, but it's just more expensive. Well, not enough people will pay more without the change in business model to make it viable, in my view.
Well, that's very encouraging for the groups within BC that are considering doing that it's actually not just a pipe dream, but possible.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ben. This concludes our webinar for October. The November session will be on Thursday, November 13th at the usual time, 11:30 Pacific. I'll be joined by Mark Taylor, who's an expert in internet marketing. He's based here in British Columbia. He'll be revealing all of his best practices and some secrets. So stay tuned to CORE's social channels for registration information, or better yet, get on CORE's email distribution list by going to their website and signing up. All right, it's a wrap. I'm going to sign off the meeting. Feel free to unmute and say goodbye.